Hello, I'm Deidre McIntyre. Welcome to this Black Blockchain Summit panel. We're going to take a deep dive into the real estate case for crypto tokenization, and we have several esteemed panelists who are going to speak from their expertise. This is a really exciting panel. Our first real estate panel was in 2022, so we're back at it again by popular demand. So, without further ado, I would like each of our panelists to introduce themselves. We're going to start with Gary first.
Sure, and welcome. Thank you for having me, Gary Rockland. You real estate rock star is what they call me. Man, I've been doing this real estate space now for 22 years, DC and Baltimore. Housing low to medium income families, love it. And now I'm also lending money. So this is always great to be a part of the blockchain.
Awesome. Let's go with Whitney.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me as well. I'm Whitney Griffith. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft, and I guess I'm your real estate rookie. I got into the real estate game back in 2021 doing a house hack, and since then I've been able to accumulate a small portfolio of short-term rentals as well as one long-term rental in Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm really excited to see how we can add blockchain tech to real estate to make it more accessible, more affordable, and yeah, just get us more experience in terms of building wealth with real estate.
Awesome. Marcus.
Hello, my name is Marcus Goodwin. I'm the CEO of Honorific, a housing benefits tech platform, and the Goodwin Companies, which is my real estate development firm. I've been in commercial real estate for over 10 years now and had a career on Wall Street before that. So happy to be a part of this discussion, talking about the use case for the blockchain within real estate and how that's applicable both from a technology housing perspective and commercial real estate perspective.
Fantastic. Vernon.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Well, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. But my name is Vernon J. I'm the CEO and founder of Equity Platforms. We created the first digital token backed by affordable housing. Real estate just runs in my veins. I started in about 18 years ago, and since then I've been able to do a little bit under 200 million in transactions as a broker and agent throughout the country, New York, different parts of Texas, different parts of California, all over. Excited to talk about how blockchain and real estate are intersecting and creating more efficiencies. The company again is Equity Platforms, but the digital token that we created was Equity Coin, and I'm excited to drop some gems.
Fantastic. I did not lie about this panel. It was hard to get everyone together and make sure everyone was able to meet, but I'm so glad everyone was able to attend this panel. So many, years of expertise, and especially in this burgeoning area of real estate and blockchain. So my very first question, and we'll start with Vernon first, is in terms of blockchain in its current state, not to look to the future, how could you explain to someone who is a novice to blockchain how blockchain is influencing or changing the real estate industry? And everyone will have an opportunity to answer. Go ahead, Vernon.
That's a packed question, but I'll start with my journey. My journey started in 2016. I started to understand that blockchain and cryptocurrency, there was something to it. There was something that was futuristic, that was creating some connections and community that I haven't seen before. I've been able to travel to Dubai, Hong Kong, go to different countries and see, how blockchain is taking hold of financial sectors. And what I learned by, early in my blockchain, career is that these other countries are so far ahead of the United States. It's not even funny, coming back and going through these ebb and flows of the market where you have these big highs and these low lows. What I realized after this, almost a decade into the space is that cryptocurrency itself and blockchain, I would say specific, blockchain is a revolutionary technology that's disguised as a casino, right? The highs of the market and the lows of the market aren't really what is the value. The value is the underlying technology, the blockchain space. And I'll just give you an example of how we do it with equity platforms, with Equity Coin. No matter if it's an NFT, a cryptocurrency, a security token, which we are a security token, blockchain is the underlying technology. And just to give you an example, for our dividend distributions, when we own affordable housing developments across the country, and our investors, our token holders, are able to get dividends sent directly to their MetaMask wallet, which happens in a matter of seconds, on a quarterly basis, versus the snail mail of sending out physical checks to those investors. It's the difference between email and snail mail, pretty much. So again, I think the biggest takeaway I hope everybody can get from this is that, again, blockchain is a revolutionary technology that's disguised as a casino, and we need to be exploring the value of the technology instead of the ebb and flows of the marketplace.
Thank you. Marcus, same question. Current state of blockchain, what is currently being done that you've heard about or that you've seen?
I've seen a lot of the potential of the application of the blockchain, which is anyone who's going to be buying, leasing, financing, or getting involved in the real estate transaction from a financial standpoint has the ability and potential to verify ownership, log and keep an accurate database of any transactions that are happening, check the veritability of any liens against the property, and transfer ownership. I haven't seen the practical application, likely because there has to be a lot of government involvement in fully adopting that technology. So the applications that I've seen have been within private enterprise, leveraging the technology to ensure there's the most accurate level and highest level of security fidelity behind every real estate transaction that people are tracking. But for us to fully see it in our lives, in the homes we live in, properties we invest in, or seek to invest in, I think it's going to have to take the next step of both state and federal government involvement with full adoption of this technology, which we understand is typically very, very far behind. I mean, we're just getting internet security regulations for, internet infrastructure that was built 25, 30 years ago. So it's going to take time, but it's probably an inevitability that we're moving toward in terms of fully adopting it when it comes to the financial, portion of any either commercial or residential property transaction.
And Gary, your thoughts?
Yeah. Actually, I agree with Marcus. So, as I shared, I'm also lending on both residential and commercial, spaces. And to his point, right? It is, there is those federal laws of knowing where the money comes from. Is that money seasoned? And so, because we haven't actually been able to regulate it, so to speak, so they know that money is clean money. It makes it a little bit harder to come into that real estate space from that standpoint. However, at the same time, we know that it's pivoting towards that direction. Something I didn't share is for example, my kids are my biological children are known around the country as the stock up kids. They trade stocks and options and now futures. And one of the things though that I've continuously, in their study and their understanding of trading in those markets, I've shared with them, they're 14 and 15, how important it is for them to understand this cryptocurrency, because it is the currency of the future, right? We see it in ATM machines that are popping up, right? Where it used to be all cash. You see actual ATM machines and things like that. We looked at getting into the ATM business at one point when we was just talking cash. And one of our reasons why we didn't move forward was because of the real estate space of where these machines are and understanding that this crypto market was moving in. So we didn't want to hold on to an instrument that is really kind of phasing out, as we see we're almost a cashless community. So, but to Marcus's point, there are, unfortunately, and it's kind of like with anything, it's the stock market. They want to regulate it. they want to have some control, they want to be able to tax it, and until they can actually figure out ways in order to do so, it will make it a bit harder to use those assets even to show proof, hey, you want to buy this, and you can't still show that as an asset of what you've accumulated as far as.
Yeah, and Gary, not to cut you off, but I think we all have to be cognizant that there are moneyed interests at every step of the process. There are agents who represents buyers and sellers, two at a minimum, one on each side. There's a title company that helps close a transaction, that holds and escrows funds. There is typically banking institutions on one end or both ends to manage the financing of the acquisition or manage the financing of a sale and reacquisition if someone's doing a 1031 exchange. So the introduction of the blockchain has potentially billions of dollars of adverse impact on all of these people's businesses. And everyone knows if there's something that has a threat to you, your usefulness, your business, and billions of dollars, there's likely going to be some kind of lobbying to slow any effort to move technological adoption in the direction of taking a piece of your job or a piece of your business. So that's another thing that's probably an inhibitor in that process.
Whitney, I have a double question for you because I want you to segue rather. The current question was, what impact has blockchain had on the current situation? But the follow-up question, which all the rest of the panelists should be considering, is, what's the future? What's the ideal future utility for blockchain? So, Whitney, I want you to answer the existing question and then just segue into the future, and then we'll go back to the rest of the panel.
Yeah. So I guess everyone really touched on a lot, and mainly a lot of the infrastructure issues we are having with really integrating blockchain into the existing system. I've seen personally a lot of activity happening on the selling of a real estate angle. For instance, sellers who have property and they want to sell it and they have difficulty selling it on the market. I've seen them go the tokenized route. For instance, Lofty.ai and a couple of other platforms similar to what Equity Platform is using, but in a more direct to consumer type of space where the seller can come list their property and the property gets created as like a DAO, like a decentralized autonomous organization, whether it's registered in Wyoming or Delaware. And from there, ownership in the property is fractionalized, and someone who is accredited or maybe through like a crowd fundraise, they can come now and like buy a token or share of that property for as little as $50. So with that, I get excited because now folks who want to diversify their financial portfolio is now able to invest in real estate without having to manage the like real estate operations, like what Gary, Marcus, everyone on this call is somewhat really good at. Not everyone can be good at it. So some folks just want to buy into real estate and trust their operators to do what they're good at doing, right? So the future that I see is for operators as well as the different government entities who have a part to play in the end-to-end process of like actually acquiring and stabilizing a property and making it very profitable. I would love to figure out a middle ground where we can leverage blockchain as well as the people that already exist to streamline the operations, and the end buyer, the end customer reap the benefit. So I don't necessarily see us replacing their jobs. I don't see us replacing the title company and so on. I think in the real estate space itself, there's a lot of inefficiencies. And I think blockchain as well as technology itself can help with those inefficiencies to hopefully give the title company space to do more genius work versus like the mundane stuff they get caught up with. So I guess that's my answer to that. Yeah.
That's a great segue because we actually have another panelist that was fortunate that he was able to make this call. Dion Townley, if you give us a brief introduction about yourself. And Whitney had mentioned some inefficiencies. I just want with your introduction, if you could go over some of those inefficiencies that people might not be aware of that exist in the real estate sector.
Absolutely. My name is Dion Townley. I'm with the Department of Housing and Community Development. I am actually a Howard University grad. Go Bison. So in the affordable housing space, we tend to see a lot of capacity issues in terms of how people are building their capital stack. And I just listening to how Whitney speak about the ability to bring forth various means to build funding. I think that this would be a very good opportunity, particularly in the affordable housing space, where you have gap funding needs. My agency not only is a funding source, but we also dispose of properties as well. I can say that I'm not as well versed in Bitcoin as I would like to be, but being a part of this conference is definitely going to be very enlightening for me and moving forward and learning more about the space. Right now, I think our current HBTF funding is roughly around 400 million. As you all know, DC is probably one of the most competitive housing markets in the nation. I believe we're probably about top 10. And so providing affordable housing is going to continue to be an issue that we need to be able to learn how to tackle. And so finding different ways to fill those gaps and provide that funding is going to be something that will probably be very useful moving forward with Bitcoin and being able to move funds in more non-traditional ways.
Thank you, Dion. Gary, are there any answers coming in the future in terms of funding?
Well,
and that blockchain might be a case, not just for blockchain, but any type of improvement in tech.
Sure. One thing that I liked that Whitney kind of touched on is how there are more innovative ways in order to kind of get into this cryptocurrency space, right? Buying coins, trading coins. So, there are opportunities for those who actually own property outright, right? Who want to sell a property and who are willing to take Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency as the payment source to do so. And you do see that. You are seeing that in small vacuums. I do think that will kind of increase over time as well. And so, so I think to some, kind of contradictory to what Marcus and myself were saying earlier, is I think that type of momentum will kind of force the hand, if you will, for government to kind of again step in, because one of the things that like Marcus did say, I mean, yes, it is about who's collecting the dollars, and when we talk about it, we do understand that government wants a piece of it. They want to be able to control some aspect of it, and so as they're kind of forced, as Whitney talked about, different things where you can actually buy a bit of real estate by buying a cryptocurrency. I know that they're popping up now with their hedge funds that are just trading cryptocurrency alone, and many of those. There's one, actually, I can't think of the name at the moment, but I know one is actually a Black-owned hedge fund that has been doing really, really well for the last 4 years or so. So there are these things like that are going to encourage and move those who are speculative forward, regardless, right? So I think that is one of the things that we can really start to notice, and I would say, even from the trading standpoint, opportunity there as well.
Deidre,
Vernon, I was about to say, Vernon, you're in the thick of it. You're in the mix of it. I wanted to say, what advice would you give to someone like Dion, who's like, look, I'm in here. I'm not well versed. You guys are serving the same demographic, and you've got that coin. So, speak to Dion, but you're really speaking to the greater audience of what should we be looking at.
So one of I would say the most valuable trademarks that we have at Equity Platforms is the sharing equity economy. It's a term that we've coined that kind of explains where we are in the marketplace. And I think the sharing equity economy 1.0 was with Uber, Turo, these companies that have democratized your Airbnb, for example, these companies have democratized the car. They've democratized your home and allowed you to compete with the Hiltons of the world, or allowed you to compete with the Hertz of the world, or, all these other, taxi commissions that are, these are gangster commissions. These are mafia-driven organizations that have been disrupted, that people never thought would happen. And I think with the sharing equity economy 2.0, it's going to be with the disruption of banks. And this is where blockchain technology comes in and is able to take a community and provide them with value by having that value on the blockchain that's immutable, that's transparent, that gives community members a feeling of belonging, right? And that's what we've done with Equity Coin. And really, Equity Coin, the development of that was a test case scenario, a test case for the tokenization of real assets and real equity in the marketplace. And we built that so that we can white label it and be able to have any developer, any community developer across the nation to create their own token backed by their own assets. And what that does is you combine crowdfunding. So, regulation crowdfunding gives anybody the ability to raise up to $5 million for any company or any asset, whatever have you. You combine that with tokenization, with smart contracts, and now you've got the recipe to be able to empower community developers all across the country. And I think, to put it into perspective, when I'm talking at different events, I ask the audience a simple question. I ask them, how many people here have their own website or web page? I usually get about 90% of people raising their hand, like, yeah, I've got a website, I've got a web page. What people don't realize is that prior to 1991, it was actually illegal for businesses or individuals to own websites in America. The government needed to figure out a way to not only monetize, but also regulate the wild, wild west before they can let it out. Same thing is happening with blockchain technology, right? 20 something years ago, if you wanted to create a website, it was incredibly costly and it was incredibly time consuming. You needed a PHP guy, an HTML guy, a graphic designer. You needed all these elements, a database guy, all these elements to come together for you to create your site. Today, everybody on this call can probably create a website within, before we get off this call, using Squarespace, GoDaddy, Wix. There's just so many different tools. So just apply that to tokenization, right? Today, in order for us to create our own token, which for Equity Coin, it was over 6 figures, mainly because we needed a cryptographer, we needed an SEC lawyer, we needed, the developers up the wazoo. So, but what we're trying to do is bring it to the next level in the future that I see and that we're preparing for with Equity Coin and Equity Share, is a future in which developers or anybody who is looking to create value from a commodity or from an asset or from a community can be able to create a smart contract, a comprehensive smart contract within minutes, given an automated tool, right? So that's the future that I see, where when I ask the question, okay, how many people have their own smart contract? When I ask that question, it's almost nobody raises their hand. But in the next 10 years, I think it's just going to be ubiquitous, and you're going to be able to create smart contracts on the fly without too much friction.
Great. We have a rapid fire close because we're probably done in about 2 minutes. But I want each panelist to tell me in like 30 seconds or less. Just give me one website. The website could be real estate, or it could be, blockchain and real estate. But one resource that you can have to share with people so they can get started to either learn more about real estate or more about blockchain and real estate. And it can't be your own. How about that? All right. So we're going to start with Whitney. We're going to start with Whitney.
I would say Bigger Pockets. Their podcasts, YouTube, on any podcasting application, as well as they have like their own website as well with blogs.
Thank you. Marcus.
I want to give one, but I think there are a lot of news outlets that have been really, really good covering blockchain and how it's revolutionizing real estate. So if I could give two just
Go
to
ahead,
focus on,
Fed, 30 seconds, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, Forbes and Entrepreneur, those two sites, tracking an RSS feed with the word blockchain in it, and real estate has been great for me to see and understand the biggest news in the industry.
Great old school tactics. Go to the standard and just put blockchain in it. Dion, real estate must-have list.
Yes, I'm actually going to use the loophole. So I'm going to say my agency's website, dhcd.dc.gov. A lot of home ownership information on there. First-time home buyer grants and programs. So I think it's a wealth of good information for anyone looking to get into space, as well as funding that we provide.
Vernon, I think, did I cover Vernon?
Yeah, I'd say MIT.
And
MIT has an incredible library of resources regarding blockchain technology, and if you're a nerd, you're gonna love it. So,
and who did I leave out? Was it Gary?
Sure, yeah. So
Yes, go
actually, I
ahead.
think Marcus said one of mine, which is Entrepreneur, but then you made it hard. He said not your home. Always branded, right? It's always a branded one.
So
But
it's
yeah, so I
yours
mean,
and
yeah. So I would also, I use DC Housing's website a lot. So, when it comes to even trying to figure out comps for rents in certain areas. So I think, when you look at HUD, or those types of sites, it's full of resources for those who are trying to get in the space, who need to get housing, counseling, et cetera. Those are kind of still some of those.
great. And that's all the time we have. I'd love to thank my panelists for this deep dive into real estate. Way too short, but definitely resource rich. And that's what matters most. Thank you.